Okay, hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Hi, Faith. How are you? Yes, I can hear you.
Okay,
Good
thank you for
morning.
joining our webinar. Uh, we are going to introduce ourselves, starting with me. My name is Faith. I work for Enable in Communications. Linda? Yeah? Lily, you can introduce yourself. Can't hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Linda. I also work at Enable. So now, Lily, please introduce yourself. Okay, we can come back to her. Karen, please switch on your camera. Karen, Palemo, Yusuf, our speakers for today. Yeah. Yeah, but Karen, you can go first.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yes.
you.
All right. Hi, guys. Good afternoon. Good morning. Um, my name is Karen Muriuki. I am an autistic self-advocate from Kenya. I work in various organizations, but I will reduce to just the ones that are known. Work with an OPD, Differently Talented Society of Kenya, as the organizing secretary. And then, of course, I work with Ubongo as a neurodiversity consultant, and I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you.
Yusuf, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, good morning. My name is Rahim Yusuf Olatuji. I'm a disability rights advocate and also the CEO of UTEC Global Concept. So I work as program director for Start Children Development Initiative in Nigeria. So I'm a person with physical disability, two-leg paralyzed. For those who want to, as a means of identification. So that's all from Nigeria. Thank you. I'm glad to be here and looking forward to engaging an amazing conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Yusuf. Mamzi, Pelemo, please introduce yourselves.
Good day. My name is Mamsi. I am from Botswana. I'm an actress and an MC, and I am truly grateful to be part of this webinar and to engage in this conversation. Oh, and I use a wheelchair.
Okay, Palemo.
Hi everybody. My name is Pelimo Nyaju from Nigeria. I'm a person with physical disability. I have a rare disease called fibrous dysplasia, which means that my bones are not as strong as they should be, so I use crutches. I am the team lead and founder of Movement Beyond Walls, where we connect persons with and without disabilities through art and play. And I am an artist, I'm a poet, and I also work in international development, making sure that we have an inclusive world where people are treated as human beings. Thank you.
Farid, please introduce yourself.
Hi, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. My name is Farid Ibrahim Gombela. I am a social worker. I also work as a disability inclusion facilitator with the Mastercard's We Can Work program. And I'm also an assistive technology trainer here in Ghana. I am visually impaired, and I'm happy to be here and hoping to have a very insightful conversation. Thank you.
Switch on your camera and introduce. I can't be heard.
We can hear you now.
Okay. Taiwo, please switch on your camera and introduce yourself. Hi, Taiwo. If you can hear me, please unmute yourself and introduce yourself. Yeah, I have them. Hi. So we have an MC who's having a bit of a technical issue. So we'll just move into the first question. So Mamsi, please switch on your camera, and in 2 minutes, please let us know, what does disability pride mean to you personally?
Okay. Thank you so much once again for the opportunity to join this conversation, and thank you for the question. For me, disability pride is, it's all about owning your disability and your differences. It is about running with it full force, regardless of its magnitude or whatever situation. The name, I actually call myself the wheelchair, and that name stemmed from that pride that I have in my, not just my disability, but in my ability and my difference. This disability, although it doesn't define me, it plays a huge role in molding the person that I am today, and it's an extension of who I am. And you know, I sit confidently and very pretty in my chair every single day, showing up in different spaces professionally and in the creative space, because I am proud and I'm not ashamed of my disability. And I know that this disability is my normal, and I live my truth, and that's basically what it means to just own it. So that's what disability pride for me personally means.
Thank you. The next person so Karen, please switch on your camera.
Yes.
Yes, nice. Let us know, how do cultural perceptions of disability shape personal identity in Kenya? Yeah.
Hi everyone. So thank you so much for your question. So one of the considerations, especially when it comes to culture and how it perceives persons with disabilities, especially the hidden disabilities, It's just basically on a negative scale. When you consider how they view persons with disabilities from the cultural perspective, they view it from a place of a curse, especially when you just learn that people, when you just, especially, I'm just going to speak for myself, personally, as an autistic person, because of the fact autism is very much very misunderstood on a cultural perspective, where they look at autistic people as a curse. They look at them like people who are just possessed by evil spirits, or even as a result of witchcraft, or they just claim that, that child or that person, that autistic person is just especially when they look at their parents, for example, that child is spoiled, or bad parenting, all things of that nature. Or even it also applies to other disabilities as well, like that child, that person either on a wheelchair was, that perspective is, the cultural beat is very much negative. And especially in Kenya, when it's just how people, their mindset is just built on ableism, that internalized ableism. You look at it like, for example, like, you cannot even get jobs or anything of that nature. So it's like the attitude is just still there. We have a long way to go in that changing the mindset of society, changing the mindset of culture, and how we can build that gap in that area. So yeah, that's basically it from me.
Okay, thank you, Karen.
Yeah.
Now I'll hand over to
Thank you so
Taiwo. So
much.
Taiwo, please introduce yourself, and then now you can move on to the next question. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. I'm sorry I had this technical glitch. So sorry, but I'm happy I'm back now. So my name is Taiwo Akitsanya. I'm the team leader at Dynamic Technologies. And what we're doing is to see how we improve the daily lives of people with disabilities using 3D printing. So that was what we're doing before, but right now we are in a particular phase of the company where we are trying to now build solutions for the people with disabilities generally, in terms of them accessing medical devices, accessing education and the likes, right? So we are calling that project Dyna X. It's only a pilot stage, but I think very soon we're going to launch. And I'm like, I'm listening very well, like relate to what the president answered just said. And I can assure you, the problem is not just in Kenya, like you presume. It's actually all around the world, and that's why we're having this webinar today. Trying to find a way where people with disabilities can have this, a pride in what they have and what they do, and they can take that pride to wherever they go, and they can push that out there. So I think the next question goes to Palermo, and and the question is, how can we shift the narrative from pity to pride for people with disabilities? How can we change the narrative for them from pity to pride? Palermo, please.
Thank you, Taiwo. It's currently raining, so if you can hear rain, just imagine it's like my backdrop.
Yeah.
I deeply believe in anti-capitalist ideology, which might be a bit controversial to some people, but I think that capitalism pushes the narratives that we need to be productive to be worthy, right? And I think a lot of the time, if you're unable to function in a certain way, which society has said you need to function in order to fit into the box of normal, which is really small, then you are considered not human, or you are considered not worthy, or you are considered not part of the system, in quotes. But I believe that if we want to shift from pity to pride, people need to see the value of disabled people's lives. People need to see the value in the work that disabled people are doing. And even if we're unable to do any work, we need to realize that human life is enough and we are worthy. And I think that persons with disabilities show us that there is a lot of diversity in the human race. I think that human race has a lot of diversity, and disability is not something that's preserved for a few. If you eventually get to a really old age, you'd see that a lot of times our health starts to deteriorate and a lot of people get disabilities. So it's not something that's preserved for a few. It's something that's if we live long enough, we will get to, right? So I think a lot of people need to see it from that lens and see that there are so many things that make us who we are. And for a lot of reasons, persons with disabilities are human beings also. I think that has been taken away from us in a lot of ways. But if we're able to see the human factor in disability, then we can see that there's a lot of pride in it, especially in how we're able to make adjustments and accommodations for ourselves, especially when there are no provisions made as they should be made. But yeah, that's in a nutshell. I think that we can move from pity to pride by actually acknowledging the value in disabled people's lives.
Thank you so much, Palermo. I mean that I like one particular point that you said that actually, for people with disabilities, you might feel like some are from birth, some are actually acquired, right? And it's something that in a large sense, some people will actually end up having to experience if they live long enough. I mean, so it's something that we just have to, for people who are currently having it, try to find a way whereby they are not undermined by the society values, but they themselves bring the value to the society so that they can have this pride system in themselves. Thanks so much for that. I really kind of resonate with that a lot. I think the next question goes to Farid. I don't know if you can hear me, Farid. If you can hear me, put on your camera. Let me see your beautiful face. Let me see your handsome face, and I can let you know the question. So
yeah, I can hear.
Yeah, thank you so much, Farid. So the question to you goes to, so we are going to another aspect of the question right now, which is navigating personal journeys of identity and visibility, right? So what moment actually shaped your understanding of yourself and your identity as a person with disabilities? What is that particular moment that made you, that shaped your understanding of yourself?
Okay. Thank you very much for the question. So in Ghana, right after primary school, we do 3 years of junior high school, then an extra 3 years of senior high school before we go on to the university. So I had done my first 3 years of junior high school in an all-blind school. And so by definition, our experiences in that school were all quite similar as persons with visual impairments. But once I moved on to the senior high school, where it was an integrated setting, a lot of the students without disabilities, upon encountering us, persons with disability, would not approach us. They would isolate us. They were under this, misapprehension that disability was contagious and all of that. And so, we felt, those of us who were visually impaired in that school at the time felt very isolated. But once we got into classes and started outperforming them, naturally, these students started drawing closer and we made a lot of friends from there. For me, what that experience taught me is that as a person with disability, when I find myself in moments of isolation or discrimination, I don't have to fold, I don't have to hide, I don't have to feel sorry for myself, but I just have to be the best I can be at doing whatever I am good at. And naturally, that would bring people closer to me, that would give me opportunities. And that is what makes me feel proud of my identity as a person with disability. I can't separate that identity from who I am. And so if people wouldn't see me if people would see me and only see my disability, then that's their problem. If they would discriminate against me based on my disability or my visual impairment, that's their problem. For me, it's an identity I am proud of, and I would use that identity to work for myself and work at getting to a better place in life. And that would naturally, draw other people closer to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Farid. I mean, I went to a secondary school that is also kind of like mixed. So some of us are people with disabilities. So that's when I started having experience with people with disabilities. And I remember in my class, there are people who had physical disabilities in terms of their body, and there's some who were blind, and there's some who were deaf. But beautifully for us, right, the best student in our class then, because it was a government school, for people who are from Nigeria, we know the school, Adiola Ojola College in Djibouti. And so the best student in our class was actually someone with a physical disability of sight. The person could not see, right? And we were always wondering, how would this person, I mean, how would this person keep being the best in the class when most of us are here, right? So all of us just have to conclude that I think God gave this guy another brain, another special gift of hearing, so he could hear like 3 times more than what we are hearing, right? So that kind of shaped, that's what shaped my own moment for me in interacting with people with disability. So from secondary school, I was just so determined to build a solution for people with disability. Thanks so much for that. I can highly resonate with that. So my next to Mr. Yusuf of Nigeria. So I want to ask, what role has visibility played in your journey, whether in education-wise, career-wise, or activity, and your activity per day like that? So what role has visibility played in your journey, sir?
All right, thank you so much. Feasibility has been a very important aspect of my life, especially in promoting disability inclusion, advocacy, as well as my during my course of study at the universities, in my career, and in my career as well. And I will give us because without feasibility, it will be very challenging for us as persons with disability to be able to challenge the issue of stigma, discriminations, as well as systematic change. We will not be able to to be able to effect change if there is no feasibilities, and it will also be very challenging for us to be able to inspire, to empower people with disability. And I will give you an example. When I was at the University of Ibadan, I had the opportunity of serving an association called Special Persons Club, University of Ibadan, as the president for 2 years. And at that period of time, because I was very active in student unionism, I also extracurriculum activities. I was very, very active. And my faculty, during our advocacy to my dean, the dean of my faculties, after the advocacy, we were able to, the dean was able to make our faculty to be the first faculty in the University of Ibadan to be disability friendly, to be accessible for wheelchairs. As a result of that effort, because I was very, very active both in student unionism as well as in extracurriculum activities, and we were able to get that kind of impact as a result of that. Another very important thing is that I had the opportunity to also serve umbrella body of Organization of Persons with Disability, JONAPID, that's the Joint National Association of Persons with Disability in Nigeria, as the National Assistant Secretary General of the associations. And I was part of the team that also put pressure on government to assent our bill, that is Discrimination Against Persons with Disability Prohibition Act, because we were up and doing, going on live televisions, having a media conference and all of that. We at different level town hall meeting, we were engaging governments, we were engaging private sectors and all of that. If we hide ourselves or we isolate ourselves, we will not be able to achieve that. So feasibility is very important. And in my career, I will say that I run business I'm an entrepreneur with disability. I run business as a fashion industry. I design shoes, I make shoe belt, and so on and so forth. And my services, is both is both enjoyed by disabled and non-disabled people. And also in entertainment, I'm also into entertainment, inclusive entertainment, which means that by being active in that space, promoting inclusive entertainment, so people already, they know who I am, what I stand for, and the kind of value I can bring to the table. And also, as an accessibility consultant, I have a consulting firm. UTech Global Concept Limited, where we create accessible space beyond, because I believe beyond policies, advocacy. There are a lot of organizations doing wonderfully well in the area of advocacy. As a person with disability, I believe that there's need for us to start, creating. To start building values, and to be at the supply chain, so that at least what we are preaching, what we are advocating for, people can see with their own hand. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that feasibility is very important. As a young person with disability, you need to be very active in your community development. You don't have to isolate yourself. We know that there are so many stigma out there that are systemic, or institutional barriers. But if you don't come out, if you don't make yourself visible, if you don't speak out, there is no way people will see you, and there is no way you'll be able to effect change. Thank you.
Wow, wow. I mean, that was very powerful, right? I mean, I'm literally on my seat right now, and I was actually feeling that, and I can highly resonate with that. I remember there was a moment in time where we had somebody who wanted to sponsor people with disabilities to get free medical devices, right? And we had some section of people of these people with disability who felt like, what, just give me the money, I'll just go and sort myself and just go and sort my life, right? So I had to make them, we had to bring a psychologist at that point to make them understand that we giving you the money is not the problem for us at all. But actually, at the end of the day, you still remain the same in the aspect of the PT party system with the public health for you. You'll not be able to do something in your community. And we're able to use examples of Paralympics people at that moment in time who are disabled part, and were able to actually go on to do great things, meet with the president and all like that. So that actually inspired them to say, okay, you know what? If you can assure me that will work again, then okay, you know what? Let's do it, right? So I think these are something that we actually need to pass across people with disability themselves, to let them know that their condition does not mean they have to be bedridden for life, right? Or do not mean that they can't add value to the society. Like looking at what Mr. Yusuf has said, this should actually be very inspiring to everybody out there and be like, okay, I can also add value to my community. Thanks so much for that, Mr. Yusuf. I'm moving on to Karen now. And now we are in another section of education, technology, and empowerment, right? So my question is this: how has access or lack of access to assist technology influence your part? Karen, please, can you help to answer this very important question?
Yeah. Since I work in the educational space, I think one of the areas that has been lacking, obviously, is digital accessibility, especially in edtech products. When we're designing edtech products, it does not address the needs of persons with disabilities. Especially in assistive technology that would be able to be used in the classroom. Yes, there's a bit of change. I've seen some organizations like Ikitabu has done a very tremendous job in promoting sign language among children. However, there's some, of course, I can remember you've even reminded me that I attended the STEM Static conference back last week in Karen, and what I just found out is that it's not as accessible as it was. Really, like, not inclusive in such a way. It was 60% inclusive, but I kept going towards every standard you could even think about. I even asked, have you considered the needs of persons with disabilities, especially in your edtech products? They've told me no. So I kept asking. So it's a concern that I obviously have when it comes to access to assistive technology and edtech products that are needed to help children with disabilities be able to just participate just like the rest of the population. So yeah, there's a few improvements, but however, I feel we need more that needs to be done in that section. So it calls for us to obviously come together as advocates and advocate for better accessibility products, especially in EdTech, for learners with disabilities, because that is our right. We need to ensure that that really happens. Thank you so much, Taiwo.
Wow, thanks so much, Karen. As a developer myself, right? I know what it takes to actually build a product that has this inclusion for people with disability. It's a lot, and one of the major factors that actually affect is to find the people with disabilities who are ready to help to test the product, right? I think the first assumption that affects developers is that when you build products for people with disabilities, it will most likely end up in a grant program. You need grant the person is not sustainable in its own self. And it's kind of like doing silent ball. We just have to find a way to ensure people with disability can access assistive technology. Because I know one major vision that I have is that this is the only way they can have access to assisted daily living, right? So I think we just have to actually keep on putting this out there to people to know that access to assistive technology is not debatable, but it's necessary and it's required for people with disabilities. My next question goes to Momsi, right? And my question is this: what are the gaps in inclusive education system in your country in Botswana, and how can they be addressed, right? What are the current gaps in ensuring the education system is inclusive in Botswana, and how do you think they can be addressed? Momsi.
Hi, Tayo. Thank you. Taiwo. I hope I
Yes.
pronounced it correctly.
Yes,
Thank you so much for that question. I think to piggyback on what has already been spoken about access to assistive technology, I think that's an area that needs to be invested more into here in Botswana. That along with just making the buildings more accessible. It seems like it's a simple thing, but if it was so simple, then it would have already been addressed a long time ago. When I started using my wheelchair in 2005, I remember the school that I went to, they had to make a lot of changes just to make sure that I'm able to get into a classroom. Just a simple ramps had to be put in, and that kind of opened their eyes for them to realize that in as much as the school it's a great institution, it is not accessible and open to everyone and anyone. Another area that I feel needs to be addressed, and it's just making, I guess, capacity building for educators as well, for them to know how to deal with learners with diverse abilities, because we don't necessarily have that many institutions that are primarily for students with disabilities. So you will find students within mainstream schools that have different abilities. And if the teachers are not trained to work with them and learn or work with them at their own pace and at their own from their own point of need, then it makes it very difficult for the student to progress. So working on their attitudes, training them and teaching them pre-service and in-service about the different disabilities, the different areas and things that they could possibly experience during their teaching. That could also help a lot. And then, not to ramble on, I think also, which kind of goes hand in hand, it's also just making it a priority to also raise more awareness within schools amongst the learners as well, so that when they do interact with a student with either a learning disability or a physical disability or whatever disability they have, they know how to deal with them, and they don't make fun of them, they don't bully them. They just are open to asking questions and learning and understanding how to work with their fellow learner who has a different ability. So I think those are the areas that there are many more, but those are the key ones that I think if we could address those and we could nip those in the bud, then everything else will be kind of like a ripple effect, and it will just keep working as the years progress.
Wow, thanks so much for that, Monty. I mean, that was very insightful. And like I said, I went to a secondary school for people without people with disabilities involved. And in my school, then, to my best of knowledge, the inclusion was kind of like they ensured that all of us were in the same class. They had their own special teachers, and that's like far back to like 15 years ago. I don't know how it is now. I'm very sure it has improved. I'm hoping it has improved, right? And it was, from there, it was then I knew that, some could be blind and could still attend school. But I think the issue I found out was that their whole education system was kind of like too slow. The person was already in, I was like 12-year-old then, and the person was already in his late 20s, and it was in the same class with me, right? So I think the education system just need to be improved for them to be able to know that they are included in all of these aspects, right? And apart from that, Ghana Labor as well, we just even helped some teachers to assess some classes to help them to be able to teach people with disabilities and people with disabilities. I mean, that's the least we can do. For them to go to the school, know what it takes to actually train student, young kids, right? Because here in Nigeria, I think the major challenge is that these parents kind of like leave the children at home. They don't even know what to do at all, right? And the burden just falls back to the learning system that they currently have access to. So I think my next question is going to Mr. Farid, right? I want to ask, what support system made a difference in your own growth, right? Because I heard you, talk about you're the best in your class. People have to come to you because you're so good, right? But no, I'm very sure there would have been a support system that actually made a difference in this growth system. So what can you actually pinpoint that special support system that helped you, right?
Okay, thank you very much, Taiwo. I think that for me, first of all, I would say my parents. As persons with disability, it's important to have that supportive family system that gives you the emotional support as well as the financial support, because it can be quite expensive to take care of a child with disability. Let's face it, sometimes the cost of crutches, in my case, I mean, I have been visually impaired since birth. So going to hospitals, seeking various forms of treatments. And apart from that, even while I started school, getting me a Braille teacher and all of those things come with some cost. In addition to that, I would say assistive technology has been absolutely amazing. For me, in poetry terms, I'm sure Palermo can relate to this. I would say it's like sunshine at midnight for me as a person with disability, because prior to assistive technology, we had to rely heavily on Braille. And Braille came with transcription errors. So you could write something in Braille, and then the one doing the transcription would mistranscribe, and that would be presented as your thoughts and your opinions on a particular subject, and that would lead to you scoring low on a particular test. But with assistive technology, what I type on my phone or my computer is exactly what my teacher would get, exactly what my employer would get, and it has enabled me to do a lot of things in education and other aspects of my life. The last thing I will touch on is opportunities for us persons with disability to express ourselves, to show inclusion, to show our potential. For me, that has been a very important, supportive structure. So, for example, the opportunity MasterCard Foundation has given me to advocate as a person with disability, talk to these Young Africa Works partners, go to these organizations and speak to all these big men, all these important people in society who may be, high and mighty, but don't really understand disability until I, as a person with disability, is able to interact with them. So opportunities like that for me have been very transformative. And again, opportunities to work in the government, which I do as a social worker, opportunities like Enable is giving us to even have this conversation. For me, these are the moments that truly show for me as a person with disability that disability goes beyond just talk, but action as well. Action is equally important. So if we say persons with disability can't do it, it's important for us to give them the opportunity to show what they are about. It's not only for someone to say, oh, we are capable, or for us to even say we are capable without actually doing it. So like I said, the third thing for me has always been organizations or institutions that give me the opportunity to show my talent.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Farid. Thank you so much. I think you actually named the best support system worker now, which is the parents. I mean, if you could feel so loved by your parent, I mean, you must actually be ready to face the world. Then, things like what Enable is doing, this organization, Massacre Foundation, and the likes. Those support system helps us in our growth. It places us in rooms that we don't even think we can ever be there with, right? So I think let's just move forward. Now we are going to the aspect of challenging stigma through lived experience. And my question goes to Palermo. So Palermo, tell me, what common misconception or stereotypes have you had to actually confront? Maybe, I know you live in Abuja. I don't know if people have actually confronted it before, right? But what are the common misconceptions or stereotypes that you've had to confront yourself and actually stand against? Please share with us your experience, Palermo.
Thank you, Taiwo. So there are a lot. Like any person with disability, we face a lot of stereotypes, especially in Nigeria, and I think a lot of African countries have similar issues. I think a lot of people operate subconsciously from different models of disability and they don't even know. For instance, if I'm to speak on like the faith model, that's believing in like the religious aspect of it. Some people say, you're cursed to what happened? Is it in your past life that you sinned and you came now? So God is, punishing you for your sins. The medical model, some people will say, you're sick and you need to be fixed. What's wrong? You need to be fixed. You need to be fixed. Each other model of disability is there. The charity model saying that, you can't do stuff on your own. Let me help you. Like, even when I tell people I'm good, I can do this. No, they want to help me by force, right? So I think that on a lot of levels, my competence, I've had to prove my competence, right? I have to go above and beyond to say that I am capable of doing. And even simple things like cooking. When I tell my friend, I'm cooking, they're like, you cook? And it's like, I don't understand. Is it because I use crutches that you think I'm incapable of doing certain things? Again, I'm just going to touch on the point that I think a lot of people through socialization have been taught a lot about disability that is inaccurate. A lot of these things that we have been told are not true. And a lot of people don't have close proximity into the lived experience of disability. So they are unable to fully fathom what it's really like. And that's why through my work with Movement Beyond Walls, we're trying to bridge that gap and bring persons with and without disabilities together. And lastly, I think something that is very important, and I think is a misconception, is disability inclusion is a favor and not a right. I think that people need to understand that disability inclusion is a right. And for instance, in Nigeria and in some other African countries, we have different disability acts that protect the rights of persons with disabilities and show that we have certain, we need or require and should be provided certain accommodations to make sure that we fully function as human beings in society because we are human beings. So I think we need to move from we are doing you a favor mindset to this is a right, it's a human right, right? We have the rights-based model of disability and we have the social model, which basically says that the disability, your impairment is not what is stopping you from functioning. It's the fact that we do not have those provisions or accommodations for people like us. I saw a video recently where they showed a world where people without disabilities, the world was created for persons with disabilities, so people without disabilities could not navigate because it was just persons with wheelchair, persons with autism around, and if the world is not built for you, then to be very difficult for you to function. So inherently, we are not the problem. We just need a society that is able to adapt. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Palermo. Thank you so much for that. Yes, I mean, that's a whole lot, right? So let me just move forward to Mr. Yusuf, right? Mr. Yusuf, can you tell me how you storytelling which one of the people with disabilities face?
Okay.
Can you hear me, sir?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can
Can
hear
you
you perfectly well, sir.
I can hear you clearly.
Yes, perfectly well, sir.
Please repeat the question.
All right. Yes. So I was no. You gave an example of how you were the president of an association when you were in school, and now you were able to actually provide inclusion to that aspect, right? So my question is, how do you use storytelling or your current platform right now to challenge the stigma that people with disability face?
Okay, thank you so much. Challenging stigma as a person with disability require a multifaceted approach, especially the one that leverage on storytelling, using your own personal story as an example. And I will give you example. I will give you example. Um, I most time when I do things, I people at initial stage, when I'm about to initiate a project or a program or an idea, initial stage, people may not believe in that. But until you start doing it yourself and the result is coming out and people now see that this result is, is good, is something we can benefit from. And what I'm trying to say in essence is that if you are a person with disability and you are good at doing one thing or the other, make sure you do it very well so that people can leverage on your own story and inspire other persons with disabilities. And I will give you an example. I started my company, UTech Global Concept. I started with little or no funding. And initially, when I started, some of my friends thought that, oh, you will not be able to do it. How are you going to raise funding? And do you think this idea will actually, make any economic impact and all of that? But to God be the glory, the very first year we started, we from zero, I'm telling you that from little amount, from nothing, like just idea. I only have the idea, no capital and all of that, just only idea. But the very first year, we were able to have an 1 million annual turnover. 100 million rather annual turnover. You can imagine that. Even me, I never imagined that kind of things can happen within a year of setting up a small firm, and not on even on a product that is generally demanding. Do you get it? So when I remember I also had the opportunity to be at the summit and I share my story, how I started my company and the number of employees and the kind of impact I'm able to, to the impact I'm making. And people were like, wow, is this true? Is it possible? It is possible if only you believe. And there are many others persons with disability who are doing well in academics. Some are PhD, some are professors. How do we ensure that we get all these authentic stories from persons with disability that are doing well to share to others, especially the young one who believe that it may not be able to succeed in life, maybe as a result of the a kind of environment they find themselves as a result of a discrimination, stigma, and also. So storytelling, my own personal journey, helped me a lot to believe that I can achieve anything I like in this world. I can achieve anything I like in spite of my disability. And people around me too, they now, believe more in me. They support me more and they support me more because they are seeing the result. What am I trying to say is that as a young person with disability, in spite of the hostile environment you might find yourself, whatever you believe in, start doing that. Start it. And I believe people will join you. And people can now leverage on your story to tell others that there are many young persons with disabilities that are doing well in tech. in educations. We can all bring all these people together and start story. Like look at the Palermo to the Mopsy, the actress. These are beautiful stories that young person who are aspiring to be like them, who are aspiring to be in their profession, um can also listen to, and and it will inspire them to be whatever they want to be. So there are many young persons or persons with disability in Africa who are in politics, in business, in tech, and all of that. We need to start bringing those stories together, and we need to start, getting those stories and share it to other people with disability, so that we'll be able to inspire the next generation of persons, of young people with disability. And I will end by saying that, in conclusion, our chief want in life is someone to inspire us to be what we really want to be. So this use of story in my own personal life has helped me and has helped many young persons with disability, who see me as a mentor, to believe that if I can do this, they can even do better. Thank you.
Wow, wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Yusuf. I think what's actually stood out is how we need to actually project um, such stories of people with disabilities more to the public. And now the people who are innovating, or people who are innovating in this space, or people who themselves are people with disabilities, should actually be a people of excellence that can inspire many more people to actually come out of their own shell and do more. And I like what you said, that people who are who you are mentoring can actually pick from your own story, and they can pick that and know that they can actually do more than you have done. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to the next phase, or the next aspect of this discussion, which is on community advocacy and the next generation. And my question is going to Momsi. So Momsi, tell me, how do you think we can create spaces where young people with disabilities can feel confident in their identities, just like you have done? How do you think we can create this space for more young people with disabilities and they can feel confident in their own identities?
All right. So I think we need to build or create inclusive and affirming and empowering environments that ensure that we feel seen, heard, and valued. Representation plays a massive role as well. We need to see more people like us in different spaces, in the political space, in professional, in creative space, in tech, in every single space, so that we can actually see these colorful opportunities and possibilities. Another thing is within our families, parents and caregivers, loved ones need to get into the habit of always speaking positively to their children as they grow up, so that they don't feel like their difference is something that is to be looked down upon. And also, they will also just learn to work that muscle of also speaking positively about themselves as they grow old. So I think, because I think for me that's what worked. I never got to see or really feel like I am different and I can't do anything, because I had a support system that ensured that they pushed me, literally and figuratively. Um, you know, they pushed me to go for my dreams and to dream as big as I wanted to. And they worked with me to ensure that I do well and I feel confident in myself. And that is how I became who I am today. They didn't make me feel like I was less than. So I think we also need to just work on that, work on helping those parents and caregivers to also just personally also accept their children for who they are, and for them to also not limit them in that sense. I think once you start from the grassroots, I believe in starting everything from the grassroots, because if you have planted a seed that is good, the fruit will definitely be a positive fruit. So representation, community, affirmation, and support, those things woven together can definitely create a space where a young person with a disability can grow and learn and live confidently. That's just what I believe.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for that, Momsi. I mean, you made a very important point that actually sort of from which is that if we can take this solution from the grassroots level, it will have a ripple effect in every aspect of their daily lives, and which is true, right? Which is very, very true. To move forward, my next question goes to Karen. So Karen, what do you think about the role of community-based organizations like Enable? What role do you think they can actually do in shaping these spaces? For organizations like Enable themselves, what role do you think they can play in shaping the spaces for community advocacy and next generation?
Oh, it's me, Taiwo?
Yes, Karen. Yes, it's you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. My
Should I go over the
autistic.
question again?
Yeah. Please just repeat the question.
Oh, great. Yeah. So I'm asking that what do you think of community-based organizations like Enable themselves? What role do you think they can play in shaping these spaces for community advocacy and the next generation?
One of the key things that they need to do is, especially on our community, our neurodivergent community, which is very, very underrepresented, to be honest, to engage more with the neurodivergent community more. Because this is a community that we feel that it has been left out a lot in, not only in the spaces, but we also feel at the same time, even as we advocate for better community-based organization, just collaboration, just capacity building with various organizations, and that will obviously be a very key indicator on how we can go about it. And so far, Enable has done an incredible job in amplifying our voices as persons with disabilities. We feel this is a very noble thing that they have done, and I'm so proud that let me just turn on my camera. I'm so sorry. I'm really so sorry. I should have turned on my camera. My God, I'm so brain fogged. I'm sorry. Anyways,
It's very fine.
yeah, so as I was saying, we need to ensure that, especially in the neurodivergent community, we feel that our voices is needed, especially in the community engagement, engage with the neurodiverse community more, even not only here in Kenya, but also Africa in general, even from the countries that you are based at. That the community is very much left out. It's very left out. We don't have autistic voices from, let's say, Botswana, Ghana, and Nigeria in general. We don't have those. We don't have young autistic people in those spaces. We don't have young neurodivergent people in those spaces. So it is our role, even if we can even discuss how best we can support neurodivergent persons and even people with other types of disabilities that are underrepresented, that will help us now feel like we are part of that community. That is what is needed. And I'm so grateful to Enable for doing such a very noble job in just the fact that they're doing this, in creating that spaces for us. We feel very indebted to them. I personally, as an autistic person, I'm very indebted to Enable for the very great work they are doing in amplifying the voices of neurodivergent persons. And we feel they need to do more to amplify not just neurodiverse persons from Kenya, but also from other African countries. And that is the role through just collaboration and capacity building across all fronts. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Karen. I mean, this is like a big thank you, shout out to Enable teams That thank you guys for innovating in this space. Thank you for all what you have done. We want more, but we are also appreciating everything you've done for the community in last sense. My last question goes to Mr. Yusuf. So Mr. Yusuf, you've actually shared a very powerful point today. And now I want to ask again, what message will you share with young youth living with disabilities today? What is that message that you want to pass across to young people living with disabilities today?
Thank you very much. I will make reference to myself. And the the message I will pass to young persons with disability out there is to believe in themselves. They need to believe in themselves. Growing up as a person with disability, I have a very, I think my parents actually helped me, bro. I grew up in that atmosphere of love, with great love and bliss. We were raised together. With my sibling, we were raised with the same level of love and training and all of that. So, as a person with disability, you need to believe in yourself. You need to know that your disability is not really a matter. It is what you do with the disability you have that really matter to people. Today, in today's world, people don't really care about whether you cannot walk or whether you cannot see or not, because we have moved away from social charity and medical model to the right. So people want to see what you can do in spite of your disabilities. So once you believe yourself, you'll be able to achieve anything you like in life. You also need to have resilience. It's key. There is no way at one point or the other you will be faced with life challenges, which it can be discrimination from where you do not even expect. Even people in quotes, people without disability, they often discriminated about too. For instance, if you have intention of fighting for a president of any country, people will start bringing all the negative things to make sure they run you down, even without having disability. So, except you believe in yourself, you'll not be able to achieve your aims and objective in life. And there is need for persons with disability to also think out of the box. We have so many problems in Africa, especially when it comes to assistive technology. How can young persons with disability start thinking, out of the box, start looking world and see how we can begin to create solutions within the African continent? Because we can continue to depend on the Westerns on Western support when it comes to assistive technology. We can do it ourselves. And I believe I want to thank Enable because you are creating a platform for Africans, young people with disability, to bring out the best in them. And I believe that if you continue this way, I'm talking to Enable team now. If you continue this way, believe me, in the next few years, we are going to see great minds, great innovators from African continent who are persons with disability that will be contributing to the development of African development. So this is very important. And lastly, I will also say that there is need for persons with disability to use SWOT analysis strategies. They need to know what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, what are the opportunities and their threats. It is when you know you do self-analysis on yourself that you'll be able to know how best you can contribute to yourself. You can contribute to your family, to your community, and to the nation, as well as the continent in general. So if you're able to do this SWOT analysis, you'll be able to contribute meaningfully to African continent and to development of the world in general. And we conclude by saying that you can have anything you like in this world. It's not a life free of problem. Truly, a life free of problem is not possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Yusuf. That was very powerful. That's actually very, very powerful. Sending that message out there. I like what you said about people with disability themselves, the one who go through this day-to-day, day-to-day issues in activities of daily living. They are the best to actually innovate in this space. I remember this recent Enable Village Conference that we had, and we had the winner of the innovation, which is assistive math. The co-founder is actually someone with blindness, right? I know you could see innovativeness in their solution that even we ourselves could know that yes, this is a very good innovation that needs to go out there. And with organizations like Enable, that to push that person, to let people know that somebody just did this, and we need to actually send that message out there. Now to move forward to the last section of today's conference, I'm really hoping we'll not end today, but just at the end. We are the disability and intersectionality, right? And let's go to Palermo. How does gender, location, or economic background intersect with your experience with disability? Let me go over that again, Palermo. How does gender, location, or economic background intersect with your experience with disability? Palermo, please put on your video, let's see your face and answer our question for our viewers.
Can you see me?
Yeah, we can see you, Palermo.
Okay. Thank you, Taiwo, for that question. I think it's one of those heavy questions. From what Yusuf said, I remembered something. I remembered when some people were during Nigerian election talking about how can a disabled person be my president? I remember a comment like that, and it just hits me. But yeah, just to answer the question that you have asked, I think that, first of all, disability does not exist in a vacuum. So intersectionality is inevitable. So we need to make sure that whatever approach you are taking is equitable to persons with disabilities across all different factors. And something I usually say is that once you have one disparity that affects you or one area of inequality that affects you, you are prone to more inequality. For instance, persons with disabilities in certain locations, if you are in a rural area or a place that does not have access to so many resources, then you're not going to have access to assistive technology. You're not going to have access to quality education. And if you don't have that information, you're not even going to know that these things exist for you, right? And like Mamsi said, I personally believe that disability inclusion is a grassroots movement. And if we're not able to carry people from the grassroots along, then we have not started the work. Because most persons with disabilities, a lot of people with disabilities, you can find them in the grassroots. These people do not have access to these things because so many inequalities have affected them on several levels, right? As a person with disability myself, I know that as a woman with a disability, I go through something completely different from men with disabilities. Women with disabilities are more prone to violence, sexual violence, domestic abuse, things like that. It cuts across different areas. And so if we're creating solutions, we need to make sure that it's targeted towards the different intersections that we have, towards the different people that we have. Again, I think it goes back to saying that we need to understand that this work is human work, right? So I'm a big advocate for human work. So the work we're doing, we're not just trying to do tokenism and do a one-size-fits-all solution to disability inclusion or gender equality. I think that we need to make sure that whatever we do is targeted and we have an approach that covers all different intersections of persons with disabilities. So it's a very serious thing. I call myself an intersectional feminist. So I definitely believe in intersectionality, and we need to look at these things very critically. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Palermo. Thank you so much for that. I mean, that's a whole lot, and that was very deep and a whole lot of insight in that. So the last question for today goes to Mr. Farid. Right. So, Mr. Farid, I just want to ask you, what challenges or strength you think arise at these intersections? Right. What are the challenges or strength that arise at those intersections, making those intersections possible for people with disabilities?
Okay. Okay. Sorry, please repeat your question again, just one more time.
Yes. So, what challenges or strength arise at these intersections?
Okay, all right, sure. So, I mean, like Palermo said, the intersections are very important because every human being is multi-layered. We are made up of different identities, and that is why even in the disability lexicon, we say, call us persons with disability and not disabled persons, because there is a difference. If we are persons first, that acknowledges that we are individuals, we are fathers, we are mothers, we are daughters, we are sisters, we are rich people, we are poor people. you know, we can assume different forms and identities in society. And so sometimes, you know, people fail to acknowledge that as a person with disability, you are not just that disability. As in my case, I'm not just visually impaired, but I was privileged to grow up in a family that was middle income. So I didn't suffer a lot of struggles financially, and that is my privilege. And that is probably better than someone who didn't have a disability and had to struggle in a rural area. But that also means that in terms of my disability and in terms of the support I received growing up, I was much better off than someone who grew up in a rural area here in Ghana. And so those intersectionalities are important. For me, once we acknowledge them and deal with them along those lines, we can properly deal with the problem of inclusion. Once we understand that persons with disability come from different environments, again, like I said, because of my background, I had certain privileges in terms of education, in terms of healthcare. But you know what? I was not from a rich family. So even then, things like assistive technology were still quite expensive for us. So it's still important that you can still find yourself within a certain class of individuals in society as a person with a disability, but then you still need a support in terms of transportation. We still have issues of transportation as persons with disability, regardless of which, you know, category or which class of, you know, society you find yourself, unless of course you are rich enough to own your own car. Even then, it would also introduce different challenges and different problems you have to deal with. So for me, once we acknowledge the intersectionality and acknowledge that no one human being is single, you know, and I like something Chimamanda, one of my favorite author, you know, says, the danger of a single story. No one human being is made up of a single story. Once we acknowledge that every human being has different sides to them, then we can deal with the problem of disability inclusion far more holistically. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for that, Mr. Farid. And also, yes, I like Shimamanda as well. All right, guys. So thanks so much, everyone. That this comes to an end of the question from my side as the host for today. I want to say thanks so much to all the panelists. Thanks so much to Mr. Yusuf, Mr. Farid, Palemo, Momsi, Karen. Thanks so much for engaging, and thanks so much for the Enable team for setting this up and allowing us to to have this, to share our own insight and our own thought on great solution from people with abilities. All right. So I think at this point I will hand over back to the Enable team and say thank you, guys, and let's do more of this, and let's keep talking about how we can push this out here. Yeah, thank you everyone for putting on your videos. I'm happy to see your face again. Momsi, Palemo, Mr. Yusuf, and Mr. Farid, and Karen. It's been great insight from everyone, and I'm really hoping that we can take this out from from just this discussion and see how we can actually be innovative in our own space, in our own locality, and see how we can take this discussion out there and see how we can enforce changes, both in policies, in assistive technology, and in innovation as well. So thanks so much to everyone. All right, guys. Thank you, Enable team, and hand over to whoever is taking over. Yep.
From us as the Enable team, we'd really like to thank Taiwo, Karen, Yusuf, Palemo, Mamsi, and Farid for today. You've really shared many insights and expertise, basically about Disability Pride Month. And we'd also like to thank all the attendees for joining us, for keeping the comments interactive, and let's keep the conversation going online. So now we're all free to leave. Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone. Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.